Hi everyone. Today I'm gonna post the video about the assignment in which we have to make comparison of the two things, and the subject that I choose is world wars. So I guess I'll start. I hope you enjoy it. Well, First World War was from 1914 to 1918. On the other hand, the Second World War was from 1939 to 1945. Both of them were the largest military conflicts in human history. While in First World War, the sides or the bands were called the Central Powers and the Allied Powers, and in Second World War, the bands or the sides were called the Axis and the Allies. In First World War, the Central Powers were Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey, and the Allied Powers were France, Russia, Britain, Italy, Japan, and the US. But in the Second World War, the Axis powers were Germany, Japan, and Italy, and the Allied powers were France, Britain, the US, and the Soviet Union, and China. As you've seen, as I told you before, um, Japan and Italy were part of the Allied in First World War, but were part of the Axis in Second World War. That's because when uh, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, they were left out, and all the profit that it was made from the war, it was never for them. So they got a little kind of a vengeance for the Allies, and that's when they joined together with Germany, and that happened in World War II. The reason or the trigger for the World War One was the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand of Austria. He was killed by Serbian nationalists, and the trigger, the trigger for Second World War was that Germany was in such a bad situation after signing the Treaty of Versailles, and they have to fix it some way. So they were too poor, and Adolf Hitler decided that the treaty hasn't been fair to them. So he started gathering up all the new technology, equipment, army, and everything, so he could start the war and get again all the lands and territories that were, as he said, the right for the German people. In First World War, the casualties were about, they're estimate, right? Because there's a lot of missing people, missing in action, any kind of fatalities. But it's estimated in 25, 26 million people, between civilians, military, and everything. And in contrast with Second World War, the casualties are estimated about 60 million. So you can see that there's a huge difference between the casualties from First World War to Second World War. There were two kind of, a lot of people talk about the genocides, or the genocides in Second World War, when the Nazis killed all the Jewish people. Well, in First World War, it happened too. It was the Ottoman Empire that killed a lot of Armenians, but nobody knows much about it. So, another thing that is important about differences between First World War and Second World War was the technology. In First World War, the technology was not that advanced as the Second World War, and you can see that there's no many years between them, so it was a boom in technology, like an explosion in technology. Because in First World War, the soldiers used rifles, single bolt rifles, pre-carry hand grenades, They also use swords. They had swords, and they were not too good in a battlefield, but they do the job. So I'm going with that again. And in Second World War, there was a lot of new technology. The rifles were better. There were automatic, semi-automatic rifles, and the most important thing of Second World War was that it became the atomic era, when the atomic bomb was created and he was used over Okinawa, over Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the United States. Um, in First World War, there were gas attacks. They use gas. They use um, bayonets. They use shovels. They use everything because the important difference between the two wars is that the First World War was a trench war. That means that all the people are together in trenches. The distance wasn't much of miles or something, and the territory gaining in that war was to get inside another guys, the German's trench or the another people's trenches, and the combat was too close. It was more. Sometimes it got to a hand-to-hand combat, so it was pretty close. On the other hand, on Second World War, uh, because of the technology or something, you have different wars that they were a much larger distance. They were gaining territories, and the wars were in cities. The wars were in landfills. So it was a very different war. And another important thing that I should mention, because I'm already finished, is that in the First World War, the president of the United States that sent at the end of the war the Americans to fight was Woodrow Wilson. And in Second World War, the president that was in command was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was very famous, but Roosevelt died when the war was still on, and the new president that got control of the United States was Harry Truman. And Harry Truman was the one who sent the order or decided to use the nuclear weapons. He was the one who decided to send the atomic bombs to Japan. So I believe it was an important point to put here. Well, I believe that's it. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye bye.